Welcome back. Now, in the lead-up to Namibia's national elections, special voting and voting abroad plays a crucial role in ensuring that all eligible Namibians, regardless of their location, have an opportunity to exercise their democratic rights. Now, special voting provides essential flexibility for individuals who, due to work or other obligations, are unable to vote on the official election day. Now, the Electoral Commission of Namibia announced yesterday that voting polls will open Wednesday on the 13th of November 2024 from as early as 7 o'clock in the morning and will close later at night at 2100 hours, or better known as 9 o'clock. We now engage the commissioner assigned to the ECN, Pius Iikwambi, who shed more light on the issue with regards to special voting. Good morning, sir, and welcome to GMN.
Good morning, Lord. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Can maybe perhaps provide context what it entails when we talk about special voting and who qualifies for special voting?
So special voting is specifically provided for in Section 64 of the Electoral Act, and it is for 3 categories. So the first category being members of the security cluster. So these are your correctional services staff, NAMPOL, your NDF, who will be on duty on the 27th of November. The second category is obviously your seagoing personnel who will be aboard a vessel and not on land on the 27th of November, which is the day of the national elections. And the third category is obviously then your Namibians who are living and working abroad. So those are the 3 special categories that qualify for special voting on the 13th of November. And in terms of our electoral law, it specifically provides that special voting must occur 14 days prior to the day of the national elections.
Brilliant, brilliant. When you talk about having a special election from the Electoral Commission point of view, what do you do to ensure that we have smooth access in terms of the voting process?
So from the Namibians who are in the diaspora, we have disseminated information pertaining to voting procedures, the steps, your frequently asked questions on what happens on election day through the relevant channels of communication of MIRCO, so that they can disseminate that information to the Namibians living abroad. In terms of those who qualify through those other 2 special categories, being your members of the security cluster and seagoing personnel, we have also engaged the Security Commission as well as the employers in the fishing industry, and then obtain statistics from them to ease our preparation processes as well.
Okay. Talking about in terms of preparation when coming to special voting, what is the expected turnout during special voting, both locally and abroad? Do we have an estimation in terms of those that are likely to vote at the voting missions, so that I at sea in terms of the security cluster? Do we have estimations?
So, as intimated earlier, in terms of members of who are seagoing, as well as the members of the security cluster, the Commission has engaged them, and we have obtained statistics. Insofar as members, Namibians who are abroad, we have these statistics that we have gathered during our general registration of voters. However, regardless of that estimate, there is always a contingency, because those Namibians who might find themselves outside of the country on the 13th of November, but they have registered at home, but they find themselves out of the country for whatever reason, and they will not be in the country on the 27th of November, they still qualify to vote abroad. Yeah.
So if we just get it clear, let's say, for instance, I'm in Windhoek East constituency right here in the nation's capital, and I happen to travel to Abidjan on the 13th of November, or let's say Russia, and we have a diplomatic mission right there, and I know probably I'm starting with my connecting flights between the 26th and 27th, and I'm only likely to reach here at home, probably, maybe let's say Oliver Tambo Airport, maybe by 9 in the evening, which means I'll not be able to vote. I still qualify to be able to vote in Russia.
That's correct. And I just perhaps want to then explain why it is that we are setting up our voting stations abroad only at the diplomatic missions. This is number 1 for security reasons, and number 2 really just for logistical purposes on the part of the ECN. But you are quite correct in the sense that if you are a Namibian that will be abroad on the 13th of November and you have registered at home, you do qualify because you are on the voters roll. You qualify to vote abroad, and then obviously you will not be eligible to vote come the 27th of November.
Okay. Are there any challenges that ECN has been facing in terms of organizing the voting process?
So in terms of organizing the voting process, I think the top challenges that we have experienced is obviously your logistical arrangements to send the ballot papers to all the 35 diplomatic missions abroad. It was a logistical, challenge because it's time consuming. It takes up to 8 to 10 days to have these diplomatic bags dispatched and actually delivered. So our main concern was having these materials arrive at the foreign missions in time for special voting, which is scheduled for tomorrow.
So we can confirm that all 35 diplomatic missions have received their diplomatic bags with their voting material?
That is correct. As at yesterday afternoon, in fact, with the 3 other countries, the bags had arrived in country. They were just awaiting clearance, and I'm confident that this will be cleared today so that all systems are ready come special voting tomorrow.
Okay. Now, talking about in terms of how these votes are to be cast on special voting, during the special voting tomorrow, how will they be integrated and counted with those that are happening on election day? Will they form part of the general votes, or will they be counted separately?
So the votes that will be cast on special voting, they form part of the will, or they reflect the will of the Namibian people, or as part of the general voters that will be cast on the 27th of November. However, I want to just underscore the fact that the Commission will not announce the results for special voting. What will happen, however, is as provided for in our Electoral Act. Once voting closes at 2100 hours at that polling station, abroad or locally, the presiding officer will then have to open the ballot box and count, and once counting has commenced or concluded, he or she would then fill in the relevant election results form, and then once that has been completed, that presiding officer will then announce those results verbally and post the result of those elections at the polling station. So then that becomes public information. So people can take pictures and all of that. However, the collation can only happen on the 27th of November.
When you say collation, what do you mean for our viewers who are watching?
So the collation now, what we mean about collation is now the cumulative number of votes. Because remember, in terms of our voting processes, the results are announced preliminary at the collation center per constituency. So in terms of our processes, the votes for the diplomatic missions are regarded as one constituency. And then special voting will obviously also then be collated together with the votes of the 27th of November for that specific constituency. So what will happen is that once these results have been announced by the presiding officer, the special votes, the material will then be locked up at the police station in that constituency for safekeeping. And that is until the 27th of November at 9 o'clock, when these results of special voting will then be collated together with the results of the national elections for the 27th for that specific constituency. So we announce results per constituency.
Okay, brilliant. Now let's talk about, in terms of, you had indicated that you had an estimate in terms of that are expected to vote, but you obviously said, now one cannot be able necessarily tell that statistics because of the effect of Namibians who might travel and be able to vote, and that figure might change. Perhaps, but are there observers that are allowed in terms of the voting process when it comes the diplomatic missions and those that might be at sea as well as a security cluster?
So you might recall that the Commission has advertised on its various media platforms for accreditation of observers. We have not received expressions of interest for observers insofar as special voting is concerned. However, in terms of our Electoral Act, the political parties can assign agents at the polling stations where special voting will occur. And this will obviously be the eyes and the ears of the political parties to observe the opening procedures, the closing procedures, as well as the counting of results to ensure and safeguard the integrity of our electoral processes.
Okay. Now, finally, Commissioner, question to ask, is ECN ready, and what would be your message to those as we wait or anticipate for the voting of the Presidential and National Assembly election on the 27th of November?
I can confidently tell the Namibian nation that the Commission is ready to conduct elections come the 13th of November for special voting or the 27th of November, which is our general election day. So the Commission has to date executed our pre-election processes at 100% execution rate. What we are now facing is the election phase, which we are currently busy executing. So it is all systems go. We have invested time, resources, and all preparations, and we have left no stone unturned. So I want to urge all eligible voters who are registered to turn up in big numbers on the 27th of November, and those who qualify for the special voting categories on the 13th of November to go out and cast their votes. It is their democratic right, which nobody can exercise on their behalf. So as our theme for this year's general election goes, put your voice in the box.
Put your voice in the box. Well, Commissioner, thank you very much for making time to speak to us.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, that was Pius Iikwambi, who is an electoral commissioner. They're talking to us about the ECN special voting that is taking place tomorrow on the 13th of November with regards to all our 35 diplomatic missions, also the security cluster, and also seagoing personnel, indicating that all is ready and the ECN is ready to ensure that the smooth process takes place, and urging all those that are eligible to ensure that they get ready for voting on the 13th for special voting, as well as the 27th of November 2024, that is for the presidential as well as National Assembly election. Now, GMN continues shortly after this break.